In this video, I want to gush about a game that I am quite nostalgic with, but also request a remake of the title. Now, I don't think a remake of Infamous 1 is going to happen, but I think it's a great idea. Now, Sucker Punch is currently busy with Ghost of Tsushima, and it seems like they're hiring for a brand new project, and that brand new project might very well be a new Infamous game. Some eagle-eyed users online noticed that the Infamous domain had been renewed. Sucker Punch is hiring for a new single-player title. I don't know, put two and two together. Maybe they're working on a new Infamous game. Infamous is a franchise that I feel like doesn't get the credit that it deserves, maybe because a lot of people played Infamous through Infamous Second Son. When Infamous came out on the PlayStation 3, PlayStation 3 was still lagging behind in sales quite a bit. This was back in 09, and you're talking about the Xbox 360 just mollywopping the PlayStation 3 at the time, but if you really look at the year 2009, that's where the tables really started to turn in terms of PlayStation 3 overtaking the Xbox 360 in terms of popularity and high-quality games. 2009 opened up with the release of Killzone 2, which was a major release, and 2009 ended with a trio of exclusives that I kind of call this iconic trio that made people realize that the PlayStation 3 was an insane machine for exclusives. Those three games were Uncharted 2, Ratchet & Clank Crack in Time, and Demon's Souls 1. Hey, would you look at that? Demon's Souls is now getting a remake, and I really make this video because now that Demon's Souls is getting a remake, now that Bluepoint Games has so much attention on them for being this remake juggernaut machine, I wonder what other franchises deserve a remake, and one of those games, Infamous 1 in particular, came out right in the middle of 2009, so it's not heralded as the 09 game of the year. For many people, that was Uncharted 2, but Infamous 1 was a game that I absolutely loved. And some context about the release of Infamous: of course, it was done by Sucker Punch, and they were coming off of releasing Sly Cooper 3. Before Infamous, Sly Cooper 3 was their last title, and that came out in 2005. Infamous came out 4 years later in 2009. And what was so interesting about Infamous, it was this open world superhero game with superpowers and a lot of moral decision, and it was a very dark game, so it was very unique at the time of its release. Well, what happened? Oh, there was a little game called Prototype coming out literally like 2 weeks after Infamous, and it became this gigantic war of which game was gonna be better. And it was back in the day. You guys have to know that the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 debates and wars, I find them to be even more grating looking back at 2009 and 2010. I remember the battles between PS3 and 360 fanboys. Man, it was a lot more irritating than what we see today. These days, I find myself just tuning out from a lot of the fanboy wars, so maybe anecdotally that isn't correct. I was just more invested into it. I was like a younger teenager at the time back in 2009, so, you know, meme stuff like that I got into. These days, not really into that, but PlayStation 3 got Infamous and Prototype. Prototype was a multi-platform title. Infamous was an exclusive, and lo and behold, it is without a doubt, Infamous turned out to be the better game. It was a stomp. It wasn't even close. Infamous was a very high-quality title. Now, was it perfect? No, there were some stiff animations. There were some bugs and glitches here and there, but in terms of moral decisions, Infamous was one of those games that really employed that in a non-RPG title in some of the best ways that I remember, and it was one of those games that you really needed to play through the game twice. Now, there are decisions that impact the story, and then there are decisions that really, really impact the course of the story and how things play out. Infamous offered you exactly that, and also, not only did it impact the story decisions and the story and how it played out, it was also impacted in terms of how you upgrade your powers. The powers that you get playing as a good guy versus a bad guy, completely different, and a lot of the moral decisions, you have to weigh goods and bads, evils and goods, and it's very, very difficult to make some of those choices if you're just going through and just naturally making choices, going with what you want to do. But obviously, the majority of people, one playthrough, they go full good, the other playthrough, they go full bad, and then you see how both those stories play out, and they both play out in very unique ways. Infamous's gameplay was also awesome. If you go back and play it now, it's not as robust of an open world as you see these days. After you've played the Red Dead Redemption 2s and the Witcher 3s of the world, open worlds from 2009 only hold up so well, but I remember back in 09, man, that open world was a blast to explore, especially with all of the climbing, the parkour, flying around. I mean, flying around in Infamous was some of the most fun I've had, and some of the abilities that you got, it was just fun to go around and beat people up, use some of the abilities. It was a ton of fun and just a blast to play, no pun intended, because you will be doing a lot of blasting in the game. And I have to say, the story itself, maybe Infamous gets a lot of focus put on its gameplay because the gameplay is top tier, but the story itself was awesome. I thought Infamous Infamous 1 had the best story out of the Infamous games, you could make an argument that Infamous 2 is right up there with it. Infamous Second Son, from a narrative standpoint, really doesn't hold a candle to Infamous 1, at least in my humble opinion. Infamous 1 was awesome, and the lead up to the shocking reveal at one point I thought was so well done. I won't give spoilers, just for those of you that haven't played the game to go back and play it, and then you can be surprised when it actually happens, but it comes together so fluidly that it was done so well. And then, of course, you've got the awesome comic book style cutscenes. I thought those cutscenes were done so well, and of course, it being a superhero style game, it complemented that in so many different ways. Voice acting was excellent. The game was just so good, and unfortunately, Infamous does not get the credit it deserves for being one of the pillar PlayStation franchise for a bevy of reasons. Again, back in the PlayStation 3 days, I know that for a lot of you guys with a PlayStation 4, you think, hey, a PlayStation 4 exclusive coming out and it being a PS4 exclusive, that already gives it this validation that it's going to be a high-quality title, because the majority of them are outside the just decent titles here and there, like a Days Gone. But usually, if it's PS4 exclusive, it has this air of validation that it's already going to be a top-tier, you know, AAA title. That wasn't the case in 2009. People really didn't take to the PS3 like that. Yes, Metal Gear Solid 4 was an incredible exclusive, but how about you go back and play a little game called Lair, and you give me your thoughts on that game, and you want to talk about top-tier AAA exclusives, because Lair was absolutely not that. But Infamous 1 came out, and it was so well-received. Infamous 2 was really well-received, and then when the PlayStation 4 came around, I think a lot of people did look at Infamous Second Son as a game that was a hotly anticipated title, but Infamous 2, Second Son, in my opinion, was just not as good as Infamous 1 and 2. Good game, but not that elite caliber game that I think Infamous 1 and 2 were. So I think an Infamous remake from the ground up would be awesome on the PlayStation 5. I think there's so much potential with this IP going forward, and it is a little bit unfortunate that at this point it seems like they are putting it in the vault and they are working on Ghost of Tsushima, which, more power to them. Ghost of Tsushima has potential to be incredible, but I think Infamous has a lot of legs to it, and I think there was a lot of ideas and things you could do with Infamous 2, especially Infamous 2's ending, kind of leaving it a little bit on a cliffhanger. You really don't know what's going on. Infamous Second Son, of course, picks up with a new character in Delsin, but Infamous, that story doesn't really completely pan out, and it seems like there's a little bit more they can do with it. Nevertheless, do I think a remake is gonna happen? Probably not, but it's something that I would really like to see, and I think it would be really awesome to see an Infamous remake. I just want more people to experience Infamous, because it's one of those franchises, and we see that a lot with the PlayStation 3 games, because there's no freaking way to actually preserve these games. We can't preserve MGS4, we can't preserve Folklore, we can't preserve Ratchet & Clank Future Tools of Destruction and A Crack in Time. These games need to be preserved somehow, and if PlayStation 3 backwards compatibility isn't going to be implemented, at the very least, do remasters, goddammit. We don't even need full-on remakes, although I am calling for a full-on remake of Infamous 1, because I think it brought up to PlayStation 5 technicalities would make it amazing, but at the very least, give us some remasters. Whereas Resistance 1, 2, and 3, those games are not being preserved. Killzone 1, 2, and 3 not being preserved. I think that's a real issue, but Infamous 1, I think, is a game that a lot of people should go back and play. If you do have the means to do so, you have a PlayStation 3, dig that out, and definitely a game that I would recommend to play. And even better yet, Sony, Sucker Punch, whoever it needs to be said to, please remake Infamous 1, even if it's unlikely, even if it's not in your plans right now. It's something that I would really love to see. Let me know your thoughts on Infamous 1. Is it a game that you are nostalgic with as well? Maybe I am coming across a little bit biased in this regard, because I am incredibly nostalgic with this game. This was one of those games that it came out right before a summer break while I was in high school, and I remember I played the hell out of it. You're talking about, you know, staying up until 5, 6 a.m. on some nights because you didn't have school, and I was just grinding through Infamous. Infamous and Killzone 2. That summer of 2009, man, Infamous, Killzone 2, and a 2-liter Diet Coke. I just fiended on some video games all night long, and I'm very nostalgic about that. But that's going to conclude this video. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.